The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Season 13 of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. Joining me this week on the Coach's Corner panel is Clint Wright and Michael Wheeler, and I will introduce them a little more officially in just a moment. And then a little bit later on, we're going to start our travel segment as well with my good friend and co-host and travel expert, Robert Kaufman. And alongside this evening's travel guest is David Benham. He is the Director of Club Operations at the Boulders Resort. And then this week's featured guest also happens to be on the Coach's Corner panel, and that's Michael Wheeler. He'll be coming back a little bit later on in the broadcast for a sit-down with just me, and we'll talk about some of the things that he's done in his golf career and what he does outside of golf. We'll get a little bit more insight there. But don't forget, if you want to watch this episode or any of the previously aired episodes, you can go to our iGolf Sports YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. And you can also catch the videos on Spotify.com under Golf Talk Live. Or if you prefer to listen to the audio version, you can visit us on Spreaker.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, as I said, to subscribe and get notified as new episodes drop each and every week. If you're still struggling with your game, then come join the growing number of Golf Tips Premium members. We have 3 annual membership levels available: silver, gold, or platinum. And you can choose one that fits your budget. Once you become a Golf Tips Premium member, you'll gain exclusive access to our premium instructional tips from our top 25 instructors, the latest golf news and equipment product reviews, as well as some insight to top travel destinations just in time to book your next buddy trip. And lastly, as a Golf Tips Premium member, you'll receive special discounts from our many premium partners. So register today at golftipsmag.com. All right, we're going to get started, and let me introduce the guys. First up is a good friend of mine, Clint Wright. He's a 30-plus year member of the PGA and a partner at the TGM Golf. TGM, of course, is a big proponent of the R3 approach, which is designed to help golfers of all levels become better players, and has been considered by many as one of the best covering the short game, and also a favorite here on the Coach's Corner panel. And I'll explain why in a moment. Also, another good friend over the years is Michael Wheeler, joining us here on the Coach's Corner panel, and he's been a PGA Teach Professional since 2011 and was included in Golf Digest Best Young Teachers in America list from 2016 to 2022. And he's also a Golf Tips Magazine Top 25 instructor. He's competed at all levels from junior golf, NCAA, and still competes as a professional in professional events all over the place. We'll talk to him about that a little bit later on in his interview. And his clients have included top juniors, amateurs, college golfers, as well as some touring professionals as well. So, guys, welcome to Coach's Corner.
Hello, Ted.
All right. Thank you, guys, for joining me on the panel. We're going to have an interesting discussion tonight. We're going to look at things a little bit more from the coach and or teaching professionals perspective. So I've put together some commonly asked questions of a golf coach or teaching pro. And I'm going to start in the order that I introduced you guys, if that's okay. So, Clint, I'm going to start with you. And so, as I say, I'm throwing you under the bus right off the bat. So, what I want to ask you, Clint, is when you're giving or when you've been giving over the years a golf lesson, what are your goals when you're giving a lesson? What is it you're trying to accomplish when you're working with your students? Clint, can you hear me okay?
How about now?
Oh, there I go. There I can hear you now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, fine. Well, it's a great question.
Were you able to hear the question?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I got you.
Good. Okay, go ahead.
It's a great question because I think all good teachers would look at a fact as asking their students, having a conversation, what their goals are, and be able to evaluate how you're going to help them get there. Now, that's not always the same for all players, all right, because they all have different goals and objectives and different physical abilities and some bit of a beginning swing, if not a more mature swing that they're trying to make better. So I think from my standpoint, I'd take what they're trying to achieve, whether to strike it better, get more compression, maybe score better. Then you have to mold your plan around that and map out a strategy to help them get as close to their goals as you can with the limited time. But also, I try to make them understand that this may be a team event, but I can't practice for them.
Right.
I try to instill that fact in it. I'm here to help you. And in today's world, it's great because we got the video cameras on the phones that you can stay much more in contact with your student now than we ever could when I was Mike's age. We didn't have that opportunity to be that close. So it's a great time that you can help a student. I don't know. I don't see any. Ted and I've got it all for you, but so that's what I try to do, is try to evaluate where they're wanting to go and the best approach to get them there, and try to stay in as close contact with them now as I can.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, and I think that's spot on. Mike, what about you? I mean, you obviously have, I'm sure you would agree with what Clint just said, that obviously you want to assess what the player's looking to accomplish with their goals, but you also have to have some goals yourself as to what you want to do as you prepare for the lesson, as you get an understanding of what they want. You also have some goals when you come in there. So give us an idea of what maybe some other things that you might consider when you're getting your lessons prepared. What are some of the goals that you bring to the table in helping your students?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think a big thing along with, I mean, obviously their goals is first and foremost. They're coming to you with an objective of some kind: stop a slice, stop a top, improve contact, whatever that may be, lower scores, have more fun in general. But ultimately, I look at it as, coming in, they're trying to learn something. Sometimes it's just teaching them how to understand a certain concept. Like, they may be doing something wrong because they've been under the impression of, oh, hey, I do this a certain way, such as a beginner coming in thinking they need to lift the ball up in the air. I don't need to lift the ball up in the air. We hit down on the ball, make the ball go up, because we have loft on the ball or on the club. So, sometimes coming into the lesson and understanding, okay, is this going to be, more of a concept type lesson, at least, and each lesson kind of goes through phases too, right? Like in the beginning, it might be like discussing some concepts and different ideas of what what the player thinks should happen. So then you could either confirm or deny that what their thought process is correct or incorrect, and then go through drills. But ultimately, like I always give my students quote unquote homework and give them something that they can do every night before bed, just to retrain a pattern and eliminate the old pattern and create a new one. Because ultimately, the only way we're going to do that is to do the new correct move more often than the incorrect one. So if you can give them something to do at home, or in the backyard, or in front of a mirror, even without a golf club, just to feel what you're trying to do every day, that's going to help that student learn, especially for those students that only have 1 or 2 days a week, if that, to practice. Because that's along with asking the student what their goals are, I always ask them, okay, how much time are you going to devote to putting in some time? Because that will change how we're going to teach it a little bit. Because if you have more time and they're wanting to come in more frequently for lessons, we might break it up a little bit more, make it in smaller chunks, and let them create some building blocks to improve, versus someone who hey, I just want a one-off lesson to fix a slice. Okay, well, let's try and straighten the ball out a little bit and go from there, and show you why some more regular lessons might be beneficial for you.
Yeah, I hate the one-off lessons. I mean, we've all had those over the years, and it's like they show up the week or two before their corporate event, and they or their club event, and they want to, well, I've got this problem, and it's like, well, you ain't going to fix it overnight. I mean, I could do some things to help you reduce the damage control, but ultimately, we need to do some work. But it's a great post, and I think also too, and I think you both would probably agree with this, that I think that also one of the other primary objectives as a coach / teach professional is to help them learn to maintain focus better, not just paying attention during the lesson. Obviously, you want them to do that to absorb the material and the information you're giving them, but you want to create a better focus pattern for them so that moving forward, when they get out there on their own, they're able to isolate issues very quickly. Again, falling into some of those bad patterns, quickly being able to identify them and refocus or regroup, if you will, and get a new focus onto whatever it is that you have them working on. And I think that's part of the goal, I think, as an instructor coach as well, is helping them to develop a more laser-like focus for their own game when they get out there, as opposed to just sort of, floundering and waving all over the place. And we see that a lot. I see that on the range all the time. People just don't know what to do. So I think that's one of the things, too, that I would probably throw in there. Clint, I'm going to come back to you. Great answers, by the way, guys. Appreciate that. Do you have a particular or have you had a particular teaching style? And if so, what is it? And if not, if you didn't have anything particular, have you ever tried any? So, and I'll give you an example. I kind of like the the sort of the stack and tilt formula, if you will, a little bit. And, I like to incorporate that a little bit. But some people have other things. And I know that's not necessarily a style, but do you have a particular teaching style that you'd like to incorporate, or methodology that you adopted in your own teaching? And if so, what was it? And if not, was there any that you did try somewhere along the lines?
Well, yeah, I think we all have a philosophy maybe of how a person should play. I
Right.
wouldn't call it, I don't want to put words in there, but style to me is kind of, let's keep the thing light and have fun. That's style. So if we look at a certain method, I guess my early career come out of On Learning Golf by Percy Boomer, to where he taught more of a full body move, old style,
Yeah.
and that's the way I started out, teaching. You got to have movement, you got to move your feet. We never play a sport that doesn't start from the ground up. And you're hearing that more and more today. They're coming back around to it with the ground force. You got to get your footwork right, where your hips and legs. So in reality, I took that Percy Boomer type philosophy that David Ledbetter even credited for his early style of teaching, and developed that into a little bit closer to what you call stack and tilt.
Right.
Not quite as much turn in the legs and the hips, a little bit, if you can stay flexible enough to get the full shoulder turn. I just try to get, if you see in the full swing, which I don't deal that much with full swing anymore. It's the people I tend to work with are a little bit more from 100 yards in. So, but it
Mhm.
still has some playability. And so to teach them basically to move, and Mike, you may see this too. A lot of my students for the last 10 years just didn't understand how to move.
Mhm.
They were all upper half. They'd stand still, and I would, try to get them to understand their feet had to move. Because if they couldn't move their feet, they can't move their hips, and your shoulders can only go so far. So we focused a lot on the idea when I get are you moving? So therefore, I kind of felt like if I could get them to move their feet and legs, the rest of it would kind of come along with it. Because we couldn't correct anything unless we had that happening first. And then basically just try to, I use an example of golf, learning to play golf and learning to ride a bicycle are very similar.
Mhm.
Is that you can't teach me to ride a bicycle, but you can help me learn. But the only way you can help me learn is to observe me doing it. So if
Right.
I could get you off your feet, observe what happens when you do that, then we can start correcting it piece at a time. And I guess if you want to call that a method or a style, that's kind of what, the approach I took to it.
Yeah. Well said. I think everybody has a different style, and obviously involves certain different methodologies and things like that, as you pointed out. What about yourself, Michael? Did you adopt any sort of early on style? And obviously it may have morphed into something different, a little bit later on in your career, but was there any particular teaching style that you adopted, or was there, I'll include, as Clint said, more of a methodology. Was there anything that you adopted in what you're doing as a teacher professional / coach now? And if so, what was it? And if not, did you ever try any that, along the way?
Yes, I mean, I think our teaching styles will tend to evolve, especially as you learn more. Because I think as a teacher and coach, it's our job to learn everything there is about the golf swing and from every different methodology that's available, right? So
Sure.
you have the side of biomechanists, or biomechanics experts such as Dr. Neal and Dr. Kwan, Chris Como, those guys, that are really big and heavy on biomechanics, which I love learning about that type of stuff. Then you have, the guys that are like this method kind of to a point, one size fits all. You mentioned stack and tilt. That's an example. But like, I think as you learn, to Clint's point, like trying to keep it fun and open, but being able to have that deep conversation, especially as the golfer improves and you're dealing with someone that might learn differently. Like everybody has different learning styles. Some people are visual learners. Some people need to feel it. Some people need to see it. And, or some people just need to do it, be put in the right spot and they can reproduce it. But I think our job is to find out which one of them they are. Everybody kind of learns with all three, but everyone typically, in my experience, has a dominant learning style, and experts seem to kind of feed that thought process, right? So as far as philosophy goes, I think I personally think everybody's different. Every human being is built differently. For example, I'm about to have wrist surgery next week. I already have a wrist surgery here. I have an ACL replaced here. I can't swing the golf club the same way as a 16-year-old kid who has never had any of those surgeries. Different range of motion, different things. So being able to do an assessment and see what that player can and cannot do is, I think, very important. Now, I'm not going through and doing a full TPI assessment on every single person I see. However, I can if I want. And some people ask for that, and it is helpful being able to go through, because a full TPI assessment doesn't take long. It takes 5 or 6 minutes if you really go through and hit the main points. But the two that I really focus on, TPI is a big one. That's that guy right there. And I use their assessment because I think a cardinal sin of golf instruction is trying to make someone do something they physically cannot do. Yeah. Right. So if someone can't externally rotate their trail shoulder, that's a big hot topic on YouTube right now. If you can't externally rotate the shoulder, you can't do a George Gankus type swing. Right. So, and then Bioswing Dynamics, that was developed by E.A. Tischler and Mike Adams. So that's in my opinion, one of the best ones out there. I think as far as doing an assessment to find out what people can do and are very good at, to see how they move and how their body wants to predominantly make a motion. So to Clint's point of like making body movement, I think everybody has different patterns and things that they can do well and things that they probably can't do. So I think, as we learn and evolve as a golf instructor, I try to go to as many continuing education seminars and events and certifications and things like that as I can, so I can continually learn and add. I look at golf instruction as like a toolbox, right? Mm-hmm. Everything I learn, I'm adding to my toolbox to be able to fix somebody, whether I agree with it. So like, I'm not a stack and tilt fan, right? But I've been to a seminar, I've read their books. There are things in there that I can use for people that like to move in that way, even if I don't agree with it, right? So, because ultimately our goal is to get people better, right? So I think in improving our knowledge base will then help us be able to reach the student more, but also understanding how that student learns. Are they going to be able to learn if you dive deep and do a deep dive onto these topics, or do you need to keep it simple and short? So
yeah, I agree. I think you do have to keep it simple and short, because again, one of the criticisms that pre-pandemic with golf, with the industry as a whole, was that instruction was getting so bogged down with a lot of oversaturation of information. I mean, it's good for the instructor to, as you pointed out, Mike, to be up with current trends and things like that, and new methodologies that may become available. But at the same time, if you're now then burdening your student with all of that information, it becomes an overload for them, and it gets to a point where they get confused. They're not sure, well, do I do this or do I do that? And they're just sort of looking at, what philosophy or what do I adopt, because I'm getting too much information. So, I think it's good to, certainly look at a lot of different things. There may be one particular that fits in your sweet spot, as it will, that you find more success to, when working with your students. I think that's a good way to go. So I'm going to move on here as we get ready to proceed here. So I want to ask Clint, do you have your students, when you're working with them, obviously you provide some drills or things that you want them working on, again, without giving them too much information and overloading them? Do you try to, again, depending on what their needs are, do you maybe give them 1 or 2 drills for them to focus on that's related to the topic of that day? Or do you give them a little bit more in preparation for the next lesson as well? How do you sort of scale that so that they're not getting too much information and too much homework, as Mike put it, that they're losing interest? Not coming through.
How about now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. It comes back to what we discussed just a few minutes ago about the one-off lesson, or are we getting into a more of a long-term relationship? I don't give one-off lessons. I'll give you one-off advice, because
Right.
I'm not going to call this a lesson because there's too short a time. So it comes down to, am I with you for a long period of time? Then I'm going to piecemeal it out a little bit at a time. Just like Michael said, it depends on what you got to do. So you're looking at a specific staging that a person in their full swing, we need to do this first, and then we can go to the next one, then we can go to the next. So if in a staging factor, if there's a thing that we're good at, we need to improve on, then I'm going to try to focus that drill on the next step, not step 3 and 4, but step 2. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you're a little choppy, but yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, it's step 3. So that would come down to it. I don't believe that you just give them a whole bookload of drills and let them pick and choose. I think you have to be very specific, because you have a multiple amount of drills that you could give them, and the drill is useless unless it's identified and directly at their problem. That's why you see so many people got a closet full of these training aids, because the training aid they got really is not supposed to fix the problem they have. So they eventually, through just diminishing returns of this one, they get another one, and sooner or later the luck runs good for them. They get the right one. But by that time, their other part of their swing screwed up, so that maybe they go back to the first one. So yeah, I think the best thing to do is just give it to them very slowly, one piece at a time, to where they don't get overwhelmed with it.
And I just want to say in response to that any training aid companies that were thinking of sponsoring Golf Talk Live.
Oh, it has nothing to do with that. They just have to get the right one. Training aids are wonderful. It's just a matter of getting the right one, Ted. That's all.
I agree.
Some people look at training aids like Pokemon. They're trying to collect them all.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it's like the fitness, craze. I mean, everybody had a Dominizer and, all these things, and, it ends up just rotating through the garage sale circuit. So,
sure.
Mike, I'm going to ask you a similar question. I'm going to just tweak it a little bit. So, again, obviously, you probably very similar to Clint, might have more drill specific to whatever you're working on at that time. But at the same time, if you're looking ahead in somebody that you're going to be working with for a while, do you try to set them up for future lessons in preparation for the next lesson, let's say? And the other thing is you touched on something a little bit earlier on the conversations. You want to find out what their commitment is going to be. So, you're not going to give them homework if they're going to be going on vacation in the next week. And not going to be working on anything. I mean, you're going to give it to them, but you want to make sure. In other words, you're not going to reschedule them to come back until they've had a chance to really work through them. Am I accurate in saying that? And what is your approach on when it comes to drills or homework, as you said?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some students that like to come in very regularly. I have one guy that comes in 3 times a week, but he's out here practicing 2-3 hours a day. So he's getting reps in between lessons, even though they are 3 times a week. He's still getting reps in. As far as the training aids go, I try and keep it to just like what Clint said. I try to keep it as simple as I can. But I always try to leave and give them something that they can go home with. Like, I have a whole bag over here of training aids. I do look at them as, Pokemon and collecting all of them, but I also do this for a living. Sure. And the one training aid I'm using on you, I might not use on the next one. I need the other one, right? So, training aids are there to help you get feedback most of the time, right? Yes, learn new pattern, but most training aids, if you do it correctly, you're either going to get some positive feedback. So like the swing guide, or you get a wrist set, you feel it on your wrist. You do it wrong, negative feedback. You don't feel it, right? Yeah. So, it's giving you something in return for that golf swing that you just made, right? So, to like what Clint said earlier, if you don't know what you're doing it for, then it really, or we're just doing it for no reason, just because that one was on Instagram and it looked cool. Well, yeah, you might be helping yourself, but you could also be hurting yourself too. So I always try to give them training aids and give them drills that they can do on their own time. If they use, one of the Pro Sender, wrist training aid that I have, like I've had a few people buy it just because it's a good one. I like using that one, but for someone that sets their wrist correctly, it's really not pertinent. So, I try to keep it super simple. I try to focus on the problem that is in the swing right now. And then as far as going forward for future lessons, if they're saying, hey, I want to take regular lessons, it really, this is the popular golf teaching answer, but it does depend, right? So,
sure.
If we're set on, okay, this is the main cancer of the golf swing, this is the problem that's causing all the other problems for right now, we're going to focus on that. I'm not going to give them other drills to say, hey, X, Y, you're doing this, but next week we're going to do this. But in a situation where, like, I had a junior lesson earlier where I'm like, hey, all right, you're getting better at this piece now. Next week, we're going to work on this. Here's some homework to kind of prep for that and get your body moving in that direction to get a head start. So we're not just jumping in fresh next week, to give them a little bit of a jump start on the lesson. But that I will only do that if I know for sure they're coming back for another lesson. Just because if you do that for someone who's not, they're just going to get themselves in more trouble. It has nothing to do with making more money with lessons. Right. It has everything to do with making sure they don't get more confused after they leave.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to earlier about not giving them too much information too quickly up front. I mean, everyone, again, has a different learning style, but they also have an absorption pattern and how much they can absorb, how much information. Some can absorb information very quickly and are ready for the next step, but you have to be careful, too, that you don't give them too much information up front too quickly, because then they get to a point where they get overwhelmed and bogged down, and then you're sort of dissecting everything for the next lesson, where you're trying to refresh their memory about this, and then you're trying to at the same time incorporate that, and it just gets to a sort of a hodgepodge of things. So great answer, guys. Clint, I'm coming back to you on this one. Sure. And again, you alluded to this a while ago, and about how, things have sort of changed over the years. You had some earlier experiences with the golf swing and so forth. So what type of a time frame have you found works best for you as far as time of lesson? So I'll give you an example. Have you found over your teaching career a 30-minute lesson, an hour long, or 45-minute, whatever time frame that you feel in today's game, given the fact that everything is such a quicker pace, do you feel the hour-long lesson is maybe becoming a little bit more obsolete, and maybe we need to shorten that down a little bit? Again, I know it's student dependent, but Are you finding that just because people are, again, their learning patterns are different and their access of information is different, are you finding that the shorter lesson maybe is a better route to go in this stage in the game of golf?
Ted, I never gave a half-hour lesson or an hour lesson. I always frame mine in a 4-hour time frame, or 3 hours of time. That's what you're paying me for, is 3 hours of my time. Mm-hmm. And I always called it flex time. It was very student dependent in how they were progressing. My attitude towards it is I don't want you paying me just to stand there and watch you hit balls. If we can get to a point in 15 minutes to where we've identified what you need to work on, that's when I'm going to give you that homework drill, mark you down for a short lesson, and then see you next week. Let's work on this. And you can work on that on your own time. You don't have to pay me to stand there and watch you hit balls. So I really never got into, set length of lessons. If you're giving a clinic, you're going to be there for a couple of hours. Sure. That's a different story. But individual lessons, I never really, in my mind, had a set time. If we were making great progress, I might spend an hour with a student that day. You want to build momentum, because what you don't want them to do is to get bogged down and get frustrated. So whenever you got that golden opportunity that your student is showing momentum towards their improvement goals, you don't want to let them go. You want to keep it going. But on certain times, they're not progressing so quickly, so you break it up in a little smaller time frames.
Yeah, and well said. And again, obviously the reason why I'm asking you guys these questions is because it's interesting. We've got literally, thousands of great professionals out there that are teaching this game, and everybody has a little bit different style and a little different approach to the game. And it's always interesting for the listeners to be able to listen to, okay, how Clint handles, his students, what his sort of methodology is and his approach to the game. And then, of course, Michael's got maybe something slightly different, some commonalities perhaps, but there's also some differences as well. And I think that's good when, for people that are looking to work with somebody, that they understand the differences, because not all, golf pros are the same either. So I think that's important. Mike, what about yourself? Did you have a more structured time frame that you worked with, or you do something similar, or maybe a combination of both what Clint was talking about and maybe more structured? And again, I realize the students, everyone is going to be a little bit different, but how did you structure your lesson plans with them? Was there a specific time frame involved, or were you more of a flex time individual as well?
I think it is person dependent. I think it's also tend to be more age dependent too, right? So you got young kids probably can't keep their attention more than a half an hour. Yeah. You have the elderly population that probably can't stand on the range and hit balls for an hour, or they can and it's just too much on the body, and we're going to degrade at the 40-minute mark. So as far as how I book my lessons out, I usually book them on the hours, right? So I book an hour. If it's a kid or someone who specifically requests a half hour, I'll do those. I don't typically do the half hours just because, I use quite a lot of technology, and we do a lot of full swing stuff. So, TrackMan video, I'm working on getting force plates and things like that. So, when you have tech, it's great, but it takes time, because I want to get some swings on. I want to see some swings. I don't want to make changes based off of one swing, right? So I want to make sure that if we're using tech and getting data, I want to get a decent, data sample to look at and make sure that what I'm seeing wasn't just a one-off. I want to make sure I'm seeing a trend. So, I just the way I've always run my business, it's an hour lesson. If we hit our mark and we're done in 30 minutes and the student's happy with where they're at, we'll go do some short game, go out to the golf course, do something, and because learning how to play golf swing and make a better golf swing is a small piece of the puzzle to lowering scores. Yeah. So, going out and doing putting, doing chipping, putting them in different situations, or going on the golf course and saying, okay, let's see your pre-shot routine, go through and make, here's your target. Let's see how many it takes you to get it in the hole. Because so many times you'll find more flaws that you can fix in that time frame. So, but when the mission's accomplished per se, if we're there and now I'm just watching a stripe show for, I'm not going to stand there and make them hit balls for 30 minutes. We're going to change something. We're going to, if we're hitting 7-8 irons for this, we're going to hit some drivers, talk about the driver pattern. We're going to hit some wedges. We're going to go putt. We're going to do something for that time. And, typically I find most of the time an hour is enough to keep people's attention, especially when you're using tech, because we break it up and say, hey, all right, we did this drill. Come on over. Let's take a look. Let's compare before and after and see what you're doing. And usually that helps confirm in their mind that, okay, I'm doing the right thing, and lets the student trust you a little bit more. So, so I've done the more traditional per se hour lesson. Usually when people say, hey, I just want an hour lesson, I just want to fix my driver, and that's when we'll have a little conversation, because I don't like Clint's, saying I don't like to do just swing advice. Like that, to me, that's a Band-Aid, and Band-Aids fall off. Right. And then, then people say, oh, you were hitting your driver good, now you're hitting it bad. Oh, well, I got a lesson from Mike. No, you didn't. Yeah. So, that's a reflection on me too. Just throwing that out there.
Right.
So, so I want to do what's best for the student ultimately. And sometimes that's having a conversation with them and saying, okay, it's an hour. Yes, it's more money, but here's why. So,
I agree with that. And again, I think both approaches, again, certainly some similarities, but obviously some differences as well. And I think that, that's important. We need to give people a choice, again, because there are, as you both have pointed out tonight, is everybody is different. So what might work for one might not work for somebody else. So you have to find what works. And this is where, doing a little bit of pre-homework for the student, and that is to do a little more research in who they're going to be working with to find out if they, it's one thing, you could be the best swing coach, you could be the best, teaching coach out there. But if we don't gel student and coach for whatever reason, and it's not necessarily, it could be personality, but it could be other reasons as well, then you're not going to have a good experience. And as you just pointed out, Mike, you're going to get a situation where the student is not receiving the message that they need the way that they need it. So ultimately their fallback is, well, I took a lesson from Clint, or I took a lesson from Mike or Ted or whoever, and things just weren't gelling. And, then all of a sudden they're an unhappy student. And it's really not anybody's fault. It's just that maybe the personalities didn't work well together, and or the communication wasn't gelling the way it needed to. So I think it's very important for students to engage in those initial conversations with the teacher professional and saying, okay, here's my goals, and what are you bringing to the table? What are your credentials, obviously, and things like that. But, you have to have those earlier conversations so that when you do get into the lessons, you're able to come in with eyes wide open and not sort of guessing and assuming and that sort of thing. So here's our last quick question for you guys. And that is, Clint, I'm coming back to you. Obviously, I already know the answer with yours, but did you or do you specialize on any particular area of the game? Example, fundamentals. I'm sure you cover a lot of the things, but was there a part of the game that you like to specialize a little bit more on in your teaching over the years? And if so, what was it?
Well, certainly. Obviously, I like the 100 yards to the hole because, I always had the philosophy that if you couldn't put the ball in the hole, you couldn't accomplish the objective of the game. The objective is to put the ball in the hole. So I always started from the hole backwards to teach them how to chip and putt, which made their score much better regardless of what their full swing was looking at. They could get the ball up and in the hole. So I found that to help my success as well. So yes, I always like to start at the beginning, teach them how to putt, teach them how to chip, and that evolved in basically that's the only thing I really ever wanted to teach anymore.
Yeah.
So we began to focus on that quite a bit. Yes.
Well said. I knew that over the many years of conversations with you, but I wanted to give you a chance to put that out there.
Certainly.
And
Thanks.
Michael, what about you as well? I mean, obviously, I know you probably teach a lot of different aspects of the golf swing and the golf game in itself, but was there any one particular area that you like to focus on a little bit more, or enjoy, maybe another way of putting it, that you really enjoy dialing in a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I personally enjoy, I love building golf swings, and so full swing is probably more, I wouldn't call it a specialty, but it's the area I teach more so than short game. I do really love teaching short game still. I love, I have a 3-hour short game school that I do every year, typically multiple times in the spring and a couple times in the fall, and it's fun. I really enjoy teaching short game and putting, and but understanding everything about, trying to understand everything about the full swing, and then everything about short game and everything about putting. There's so much information in all of that. So like, I personally dive more into the full swing. I can still teach short game and putting, no problem. But like, if I have a better player and saying, hey, I love what you've done with my full swing, let's look at my putting. Yeah, well, let's go look at it. I have, I can use TrackMan. I have other stuff to use. But like, if I'm like, hey, I'm not 100% sure, let's send you to, like, around here is Mike Little. He's up in Philly, and he's a fantastic putting instructor. He's, I think, one of the best in the country. And I've sent students up to him and say, hey, you know what? I do not want to give you bad information. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the worst things I can do is just tell you something for the sake of telling you something. So I will send them out to, a specialist per se, just to make sure that what I'm seeing matches what they're seeing. And they also have more tools. Like, he's got a Quintic, which is, Sam Putt Lab on steroids. So, and but it gives you more information about ball roll and things like that the Sam Putt Lab does not give you. So, and I don't have those types of tools to quickly assess what the student's doing. So I would much rather send them to someone that, slam dunk can say, okay, here's, in my expert opinion, this is what you're doing, this is what you need to do. And then he'll they come back to me and I get it, I'll usually talk to Mike or whoever I send them to and say, hey, here's what I did with them. Here's what you keep an eye out for. If you have TrackMan with them, you can look for this. If not, just throw them on video or say, hey, look for this mistake. That tends to be their, always trying to find the cancer of the problem, right? The one thing that's causing all the other things. So, but yeah, I think in short, I think full swing is probably more, I just enjoy learning how the body moves and how the wrist moves. There's just so many different ways to do it. And I think it's fun and interesting. And, so I enjoy building golf swings for people. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer on both ends. I think it is important. I think for a golf coach, again, if there's a particular part of the game that you enjoy working with, that doesn't mean you can't cover other areas now, but if there's one particular that you enjoy a little bit more for whatever reason, I think that's good. And I like, Mike, what you added there as well is that if there's an area, again, it doesn't mean you can't, but if there's somebody that that maybe you partner with from time to time that specializes in something that again, doesn't necessarily mean you're not proficient in it, but just you'd like to give them a little bit more edge. I think that's good. And I think it works with the fitness side of things, with golf fitness. Not everybody's TPI certified. So again, it's good for pros to partner with one another and sort of exchange, relationships with students and saying, look, I specialize here. Bob over here does a little bit more of this. We work together and we can help you become a better, well-rounded player, with working in that partnership. So I think that's good to do that. And I think it's very honest for golf instructors to be forthright in saying that, because I think one of the issues that have happened, over time is when, that one size fits all, or everybody tries to put everybody in the same box. And, sometimes you need to have different viewpoints on certain things as well. So I think that's very important to, for instructors to recognize that. All right, we're going to wrap up the Coach's Corner segment.
Okay.
Great discussion, guys. I appreciate it always. And just take a quick moment, if you wouldn't mind, Clint. I'll start with you as just to let the folks know if they want to reach out, what's the best way they can do that, and then Mike, I'll get you to do the same.
Easy enough. Mike, it's great being on the show. This has been a wonderful show, Ted. Great questions and real pointed. I enjoyed it tonight. They can send me an email to clintgolf001@yahoo.com. Be more than happy to respond back to them. And again, it was a great show. And Mike, it's good to see you again. And hopefully this winter will suit you well.
And Mike, what about you? I know you're going to be coming on, and I'll tell about that in a minute. But how can the folks reach out for those listening to the panel?
Yeah, same here, Clint. I enjoyed the show. It was a fun one.
Cool.
So easiest way to get a hold of me, it's got all my contact info on there. It's my website, michaelwheelergolf.com. I'm also on YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. I think the handle's Michael Wheeler Golf. So if you just look that up, I'm sure if you Google me, I'm sure you'll find all sorts of stuff. But yeah, just my phone number and my email address is on my website, and they can reach me however they like. I check it all the time.
Perfect. So definitely reach out to these guys. They'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But thanks, guys, for a great Coach's Corner. And as I mentioned, Michael's going to be joining me a little bit later on in the broadcast as my featured guest of the evening. So I'm going to part ways with both of them now. I'm going to take a quick commercial break. And when I come back, I'm going to be joined by this evening's travel guest. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to once again have my good friend Robert Kaufman join me tonight on our travel segment here on Golf Talk Live. Robert, of course, is the co-host and travel expert, and he's also an award-winning photographer, golf and travel writer, golf media consultant. He's worked on with a number of great publications such as Troon Golf and Travel Magazine, PGA Magazine, and Golf Tips Magazine, along with a host of others. And if you want to see more of his great work, you can visit his website, pictureperfect.com. Tonight's special travel guest joining us is David Benham. He is the Director of Club Operations at the Boulders Resort. He oversees all golf programs, pro shop operations, golf course maintenance, and the Boulders Tennis and Pickleball Garden and the Boulders Club membership, and lots of other good stuff in there as well. But guys, welcome to tonight's travel segment.
Thank you, Ted. Great to be here. Good to meet you as well, David.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, another Titleist guy, by the way. Our earlier guest had his Titleist cap on tonight, so we're glad to have Titleist on board. So what I'm going to do...
I tried to get my closest hat to the Boulders.
Yeah, I
like it.
Well, it's B for effort, I guess. All right, so here's what I'm going to do, David, is typically what I do on this segment is I kind of keep my mouth shut for a few minutes and let Robert, of course, ask you some questions and have a conversation with you, and he'll prompt me to come back. And I'm going to stay here, of course, and I may tell him to be quiet or something once in a while, but I'm just going to sit here and patiently listen to the conversation. Then I'll come in when he says it's okay. But I appreciate you joining us, and we're looking forward to a good discussion. So my good friend and co-host, Robert, go ahead and take it over.
Well, thanks again, Ted. Great to be here with you, Dave. So yeah, I got to imagine I've been down to your resort a few times over many years. Love that place, just absolutely love it. So kind of to get started and get our listeners a little oriented with where you are. Give us a feel for where you're located, the Boulders, because you're kind of on the outskirts of Scottsdale, Phoenix area.
We're really close to North Scottsdale, so we're probably 30, 40 minutes north of Phoenix, near the Cave Creek and Carefree area. It's beautiful out here. I can't complain working out here, to be honest with you guys. It's great.
No, it's a great office to go to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously you've been in the desert quite a while, because I think you were at another property before you were at the Boulders. So you're pretty familiar with the desert landscape and all. And of course, Scottsdale, Phoenix, I mean, it's obviously well known as one of the top golf destinations in the country. So, given all those factors with, how many courses are out there, the amenities and everything else, I mean, you've got a lot to live up to. So how do you kind of filter through all that and, get the Boulders forefront in front of golf travelers?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got the boulder pile, so nobody has that at all, right?
No,
12 million.
Yeah.
It's hard to match that. 12 million years old is what they say is how old these boulders are.
Yeah.
Definite great backdrop when you're playing golf out there on the South Course, and it's also the backdrop at our resort there at the pool. So it's just beautiful out here. We've got number 7 on the South Course, which is called Rosie's Rock, which is probably about a 3-story.
Yeah.
You probably remember that one. It was probably it's a 3-story boulder that sits on top of a tiny one, and how it measures or balances there, we have no idea. But it's things like that make us unique, and definitely make it worth it to come out here and play.
No one's tried to budge that boulder yet and hasn't moved?
Oh, they have tried.
They tried. It's kind of a bad move for somebody one day.
Right. It's actually the favorite selfie spot, right, for Instagram posts and things like that. So yeah.
Right. Well, I was going to ask you later on. I mean, in regards to Rosie's Rock, now that you mention it, how did it get its name? What's behind that?
Many years ago, Rusty Lyons was the developer of the boulders. His wife's name is Rosie. So there you go. Yeah.
All right. Simple.
I'm sure if you prime with a few beers, I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably try to push that over. So,
yes,
I'm sure that's one of the things that gets.
You've seen a lot of crazy pictures on Instagram at Rosie's Rock, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Robert, go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. No, it's quite a sight if you haven't been down there and looked at it up close and personal. So, of course, the main reason I wanted to have you on was you got some recent big news to share, with the renovation that you just did to the North Course. So, let's talk about that. That's a multi-million-dollar refurbishment that was just done, over 5-6 months. And so tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a very busy summer for us, which is not the norm, right? Summer's usually slow, but out here at the Boulders, we were working hard. Ripped out the bent grass greens on the north side. We now have the Tiff Eagle Bermuda. The greens came in perfectly. They've been open now. The course has been open for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Members have had nothing but positive feedback. We couldn't be happier. We also did a renovation of all the tee boxes, so leveled those and resided all the tee boxes. And not to mention the work that's been done over the past few years, right? So we did a total bunker
Right.
renovation on both the north and the south. We did Tiff Eagle Bermuda greens on the south 2 years ago as well, and leveled the tee boxes over there. So a lot of good things going on over here.
Yeah. So during the course of all the refurbishments, the south and or the north, were there any alterations made to the original design? They're both by Jay Morrish, correct? Both
Correct.
Jay Morrish, correct? Yeah. So was anything changed in that regard?
The only thing we changed is we went back to, over time, greens shrink, right? So we brought them back to their original size, which
Okay.
frees up some new pin positions, which makes it interesting. But yeah, that's really the only thing that we changed. But this is really just going back to the original.
Okay. So you've got typically, when a resort property's got a couple courses like you do. I don't know, is one private, one public,
That's
or are they
correct. So
both?
our North course right now is our member only course. We do sell
Oh, okay.
memberships here at the Boulders. The
So only
South
the public
course,
is available. Only the south is available to the
correct. Yeah, the
public.
South is our resort course, as
Gotcha.
we call it.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the public is able to play over there.
Okay. So given that, I mean, even though you've got a couple of courses there, there's always the tendency to compare the two. So what have we got going there in terms of differences on those two courses?
Playability, they're pretty similar.
Hmm.
Slope and rating, they're pretty much the same. The biggest difference is going to be the South. Obviously, is going to be all the boulder piles over there, right? So it's a little more scenic
Okay.
golf
Yeah.
course, a little more of
Right.
the wow factor, right, for people who haven't seen the boulders before.
Hmm.
But there are some narrow fairways on both courses, right? The key here is just stay out of the desert on both of them. It's pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Can you share any you know wacky guest stories you've heard about people wandering off into the well, let's just say off the fairway? 'Cause,
I've seen plenty of golfers come back with jumping choil all over them, so that's
yeah,
not a good look, and it's pretty
I
painful.
I was one of those once. Yeah, so I know.
Yeah, you learn the hard way, huh?
I definitely did. Yeah, and
And not to
we,
mention the wildlife out there for
Oh,
sure, right? So
there's
uh,
tons of
we
wildlife. That's great. Yeah,
we've got the
yeah,
what we call the coyote rule out here. So if a coyote does pick up your ball, there is no penalty. Just leave it alone.
yeah.
Place your ball with
Let
no
him have.
penalty.
let him have it. Just put it down where he picked it up.
Right.
Excuse me. Yeah. So, I mean, would there? I mean, if people could play both courses, well, your members can, right? They can play the South as well.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you find there's a preference for one over the other?
Probably the South. Uh,
Yeah.
just because of what I said, right? It's just more scenic.
Yeah.
It's the backdrops, or even if you're having a bad day of golf, you still got that beautiful backdrop, right? So it's hard to get upset out there playing a bad round. But playability, they're both about the same. We've got 6 different tee boxes to choose from. So the back tees are close to 7,000 yards, and all the way up to 5,000 for the reds. And we've got different combo
Wow.
sets that you could play.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much for every skill of golfer out there. They can have a good time.
Yeah. Do I mean, for first time visitors that have never been out there and their first glance at all these boulders, I mean, it probably might appear that they they were planted there, for aesthetic purposes. But like you said, they've been there, what, 12 million years, so to speak, give or take.
We do
Uh,
get that question a lot. If those were planted there, if we did that ourselves, and I was like, that would take an awful big crane.
yeah,
So
especially whoever had to balance Rosie's Rock, huh?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Do the boulders anywhere on the South Course, they ever come into play anywhere, or they're just pretty much in the backdrop?
There's some smaller boulders that come into play, but as far as the big boulder piles, you'd have to hit it way over the green. And
Okay.
I mean, maybe if you call glass and hit a bank shot, you could do that off the back of the boulders and back onto the green, which I have seen happen before.
I'm sure.
But pretty much they're behind the greens.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Right. So yeah, that does make for a distracting shot sometimes when you've got that staring in your face. So uh, let's move on a little bit beyond the golf. Talk about some of the amenities on the resort because you've got a nice spa there, I know, and all kinds of activities guests
We do.
can partake in. So
We do.
talk
It's a
about
lot more
those.
than golf here, right? So we've got the
Yeah.
resort with 160 casitas. We also have, 1 to 4 bedroom villas available as well.
Yeah.
Resort guests can enjoy 5 different restaurants, including the Spotted Donkey, which is our Mexican restaurant here, which is very delicious, I must say.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, Over here at the clubhouse, we've got the Grill and Bogey's Bar with a beautiful patio out back where you can overlook 18 of the South, watch the sun go down. And then, of course, the spa, which is, what a spa is, right? You get all your spa services and the pool is there in the spa cafe and yoga and you name it, right? Fitness classes.
Yeah.
And then we
It
also
it
have our,
is.
our tennis and pickleball courts as well. So there's a lot to choose from here. It's not just golf.
Well, it's kind of funny. I was looking on your site, and I've never seen pickleball courts termed as a pickleball garden.
Right.
That's
Yeah, it's
so.
basically
I mean,
there's not a lot
it
of
just
there's
kind
not a
of
lot of
it
grass
kind of
over there.
struck me.
No.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 12 pickleball courts. So I think it used to be called the tennis garden originally when it was all tennis over there. So we just kind of expanded it. Now it's also the pickleball garden.
Okay. All right. It's kind of an interesting name to to give something. Not sure what they're growing over there, but yeah. And the so you were talking about the casitas, which is great because I love the fact that it's not, as a lot of other properties down in that area. We've got all the multi-floor grandiose hotels, but these are individual casitas. They give you a lot of privacy, I would think, for the guests that are staying down there.
They really do. They're spread out around the property, right? It just feels like you're staying in a nice condo out in the middle of the desert, right? You got the whole
Yeah.
place to yourself. So it's
Yeah.
quiet. You can enjoy the wildlife. Sit on the patio, enjoy the sunsets. Some of the casinos do overlook the golf course, so you can watch some golf there while you're sitting on your patio as well. So
Mm-hmm.
right, it's not your typical hotel room.
Yeah. No, which really makes it unique down there. So, what about for guests who are coming down? I mean, I imagine you've got some good golf packages, whether it be include spa, other activities. What do you have
We do,
along
we
that
do. We
line?
have a lot of stay and play packages, so that includes golf. And then for those that don't play golf, we've got some stay and spa packages as well. I
Hmm.
encourage everyone to go to the boulders.com and check out those deals and go ahead and book for this season because it's already filling up fast. As you know, it gets busy here very quick.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but but yeah, everything's on the boulders.com and they can check
Okay.
that out.
What is your absolute peak season down there? I mean, is it like January, February,
February,
March?
February and March.
February, March. Okay.
Yeah, so Phoenix Open Week is our busiest week of the year,
Hmm.
by far.
And then it starts to tail off late April, May.
Late April is when our golf season officially ends. We do have all the full timers that do play here in the summer. Obviously, they play early.
Hmm.
Uh, the Desert Rats do play in the afternoon. I can't play in the afternoon; it's too hot.
Right.
But they're used to it, so
Whatever works. Yeah.
whatever works.
Yeah. Yeah. So, kind of wrapping up here. I mean, at least on my end, I know I'm sure Ted's got some questions, but what do you want guests to, what kind of an experience do you want them to walk away from?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'll just go back to my own experience of when I used to live in Texas and we'd take golf trips out here to Arizona. We'd always
Mm.
come to the boulders, right? And for me, it was always just the wow factor.
Yeah.
You don't see this anywhere else in the country. Being from the Houston area, it was flat, maybe some
Right.
pine
Right.
trees here and there, not a lot much, not much to the golf courses at all. You'd
Right.
have to move a lot of dirt if you wanted to have a good golf course over there. But coming out here for the first time, I always remember just the boulder formations and the piles, and like you feel like you're on a different planet.
Yeah.
But it's so peaceful out here and relaxing.
Hmm.
Like we talked about earlier, there's so many things to do here just to relax and have a great time. That's what most people take away from the boulders is just having a good time and enjoying the atmosphere over here.
Yeah. What would like a typical length of stay be out there? Because you've got what, like you say, all those activities, and you don't want to just show up for a couple nights and play around the golf and leave.
Yeah, I mean, typically people stay probably 3 nights
Hmm.
because there's a lot to do around the boulders as well, right? You got Cave Creek and Carefree and all that as well.
Yeah.
We're just, a lot of people do go up and take a Sedona trip or something like that. So we do offer excursions, Jeep tours, things like that. We also have a rock climbing class, which is actually on the boulder pile, which is
Oh,
not something I've ever tried and probably never will, but I have seen
no.
people do it and they've enjoyed it. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of activities to do here.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Ted, anything you want to
Well,
find out about the boulders?
I think David
Or
answered one of my questions, and that was, sort of off the resort. If people wanted to, take a short jaunt somewhere, you said Sedona is close by, so they can go there if they want to, just take a breather for maybe a couple of hours or something like that. Do you typically, I mean, obviously we know the golfing landscape as far as who's playing the game in today's market is changed quite a bit over the last several years. Are you seeing a lot more couple golf, family golf coming to the Boulders resorts, or is it typically the status quo, what's been, buddy trips, that type of thing? Who are you seeing coming to the resort predominantly?
Yeah, I mean, we're always going to have the buddy trips, right? Those will never go away,
Yeah.
and thank God for that.
yeah.
But we do have a lot of couples, a lot of couples golf groups that'll book here as well. Not to mention just our resort groups, right? So companies that'll have meetings here and do a lot of their offsite excursions, or they'll play golf. And then of course we do have the families as well. So it's a really good mix here at the Boulders because we've got something for everybody.
Right.
But yeah, the guys trips, you can always count on those. That'll always be here.
Yeah. And what about as far as instructional side of things? Obviously people want to come and, for your members, obviously it's a little more in depth because they're there on a regular basis. So they may want to get entrenched into more in-depth lessons and things like that. But, every once in a while people come on a trip and they might need a quick tune-up or something, or maybe a little insight on how they can best play, the South Course there. Do you have an academy on site there, or what's the setup for your instruction?
We do. We have the Boulders Golf Academy. Donald Crowley is our director of instruction here at the Boulders. He's been ranked top 100 teachers in Golf Digest.
Mhm.
He's been here a long time. He's been here over 20 years. We're happy to have him. He's very knowledgeable on the game of golf, and plus he's got the English accent, which always comes across really cool when you're getting a lesson, right? So yeah, Donald's here pretty much October through the end of maybe middle of May. Then he goes and teaches up north. But he is available for lessons. He's also got some assistants here as well for lessons. They do multi-day clinics. They do playing lessons. They'll just do video lessons. So we've got something here at the Boulders Academy pretty much for all levels.
Yeah, that's great. And just finally, from your perspective, as I mentioned in the intro, you oversee a lot of the operations in the golf, not just obviously to see what's happening with Donald and that, but obviously other areas of the resort. What's the best part of your job other than being at the Boulders? But what gets you up every morning and just say, I'm looking forward to see what's out there tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it really is the team that works here. The staff here is great. A lot of them have been here a very long time, like Donald. Our head golf professional has been here over 20 years as well. First assistant's been here over 20 years. The overall team here at the Boulders, not just in golf, mind you, but at the resort and at the spa, you couldn't find a better set of people. And I enjoy coming to work every day and working with those people. And so I don't mind coming to work every day. It's not a bad deal at all.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't blame it. It sounds like a good deal to me. And what would you say is the most challenging? Obviously, there's always challenges with any job, but that's part of the excitement too, is you don't want it to just be smooth sailing all the time. What's some of the challenges that you have in your job that and again, that doesn't mean that it makes it not fun or anything, but what are some of the challenging aspects of your job?
I mean, it's like any other club, right? I mean, you always want to elevate the member experience, the guest experience, and striving to get better each year. And I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I like to try and do something better each and every season. And we're doing that, and we're good at that here at the Boulders. So that's kind of my own personal goal here, is see if we can elevate that experience each and every year.
Yeah,
So
it
that's my
sounds like
challenge.
it
Are
sounds like
are, are most of your members from the local area, or you have a good percentage coming in from other parts, maybe even Canada or some of the colder regions?
Yeah, I'd say probably 60 something percent of our members do go back up north, or wherever they're from in the summer. We do have more and more now that are staying here full time. Uh, they're probably from Minnesota,
Yeah.
Illinois, the Northwest, Montana, they're
Hmm.
kind of all over. Uh, but probably I'd say close to 60% of them are back and forth.
Okay.
well done. So, what's the website if we want to have people go and check out the resort? So, what's the website that they can go to get more information and maybe plan their buddy trip?
Yeah, sure. It's theboulders.com.
Perfect, nice and simple. Theboulders.com. All right, I want to thank David Benham for joining us, Director of Golf Operations and Operations in general at the Boulders Resort. Again, at thebouldersresort.com is the website, and also a special thanks to my good friend Robert Kaufman for always helping me co-host the travel segment. As always, do a great job. And again, go to thebouldersresort.com to get more information and to plan your next vacation. So appreciate it. Hang tight, guys.
Thanks.
And when I come back, I'll be joined by tonight's featured guest.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to read your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway. Order at alignmentballmark.com.
Welcome back, everybody, and I'm excited to welcome back on the show tonight's featured guest. He was on a little bit earlier on the Coach's Corner panel. Of course, I'm talking about Michael Wheeler, PGA Professional, and I'm going to tell you, for those of you that maybe didn't tune into the first part yet, I'm going to give you an opportunity to hear a little bit about him, and then we're going to get into tonight's discussion. So Michael Wheeler, as I mentioned, is a PGA Professional. He's been a PGA Teach Professional since 2011. And was included in the Golf Digest Best Young Teachers in America list from 2016 to 2022. Recently became a Golf Tips Magazine Top 25 Instructor in America. And he's competed at all levels thus far in his career, including junior golf, NCAA golf, and professional golf. Says he still competes in professional events and believes in keeping up with his game, obviously to set an example for his students. And some of Michael's clients have included top juniors, amateurs, and college golfers, as well as some touring professionals, one of which shot a 59 while working with him. So kudos to him for that. And we'll maybe hear a little bit about that and more. But Michael, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being tonight's featured guest, as well as doing a heavy lift earlier on the panel discussion at Coach's Corner. So thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Ted. Thanks.
So I figure if an old guy like me can stay up late, you can stay up late too. So
I'm on Eastern time. It's past my bedtime.
Right. That's true.
I'm not as young as I was when I first started doing the show with you.
No, that's true. So I want to start off, and I know we've talked, you were on actually Golf Talk Live years ago when we were on a different platform. And you had reached out to me recently and said you'd love to reconnect and come back out and be on the show again. So I said, let's get you out here and get you back into the mix with Coach's Corner. Of course, we're coming towards the end of the season, so we didn't have a lot of opportunities this season by the time we reconnected, but we're going to get you into the mix for next season in 2026. But I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about why golf. I want to go way back to your earlier days, long before you became a teaching professional, coach, what have you. Why golf? What was it about the game that appealed to you, and what was your earliest memories of the game?
Oh man, earliest memories. So my earliest memories, besides just going to the range with my dad, and my dad took me. So I teach in Delaware right now. I live in Maryland. We went to Ocean City, Maryland. We played, oh gosh, Eagles Landing, I think it was. No, I don't remember. I think it was Eagles Landing. Anyways, neither here nor there.
Well, you are getting
yeah. What? Huh? I can't hear it. No, I'm kidding. But no, we played Eagles Landing, and that was my first experience on the golf course. And I will never forget this. There was this elderly couple in front of us. It was a husband, wife playing golf. And I think we met on the first tee or something. That part's fuzzy, but my dad had told them that it was my first time on a golf course. And every single hole we got up to the hole, and the hole was filled with golf balls. Like every single hole, they just piled, 5-6 balls into the hole. So like, I still remember, I'd hit the shot because like my dad, like I'd hit it in the rough, and my dad would let me like fluff up the lie a little bit.
Sure.
So like, when I first started playing, it's like, yeah, he's like, hit it in the fairway. I'm like, why? I hit it in the rough. You let me tee it up. Why not?
Right.
So, so we, I still remember like running up to the green and looking to see how many balls were in there. And I think they were probably running low because there was the last couple holes, there was only like 2. So it was just funny, but it was a fun experience. And I think that was kind of something that set the tone for me with the game of something that, kids that are, I think, I don't know. I was probably 4 or 5, I think. I don't know. I was young and, can play up until, there's people that play on their last day, so you can play it, all shapes and sizes, and you could, get it in the hole in all sorts of different ways. And I think as I got older, I was a multi-sport athlete as a kid. I played soccer, I played baseball. Those were the main ones
Right.
that I was really involved with. And I think being a multi-sport athlete helped me a lot with golf, because just learning motor patterns with sport in general, is super helpful when taking on such a complicated motion like the golf swing. But, I played a junior tournament the year before my senior year or my freshman year of high school. And I shot, I think, 78, and I won the tournament, and I was hooked. I was like, this is a game that, like, you're never going to perfect it. You're always trying to get better.
Right.
And, 54, as far as I know, is still not, has not been attained yet. I don't think. And there might have been one person that did it. But either way, a couple people have come close. But, like, bowling, perfect game, 300. It happens.
Yep.
It doesn't happen in golf. Like, even if you shoot 54, I'm sure that person could probably look back and be like, ugh, lost a shot there. Like, you're always just trying to get better. And I think for someone like me that clearly has ADHD, you've known me long enough, so I think someone like me that squirrels off and can, constantly wants to learn and improve something, this is the perfect sport for it.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I just want to add a quick note, talking about the score. I remember when 59 was the big thing, talking about. Now it just shatters the imagination to think that, we're talking about 54, as a number. I mean, no, if you dialed that back 20, 30 years ago, and even somebody saying 59, they'd be looking at you like you were crazy. And now we're talking about 54, and it's just, it's amazing where the game has gone. So
it's like the 4-minute mile.
Right. Exactly. So you had a taste of some competitive golf as a junior, and then obviously at some point you morphed into the NCAA. So I'm assuming you obviously played some college golf. So how did that transition happen? Where did you play, and how did that experience help propel you to play a little bit more? And then obviously we'll talk about how you transition into the teaching side of game.
Yeah. So my competitive story is very different than a lot of junior golfers nowadays. I mean, kids are starting so young. I mean, my son is 10, and he just started really playing golf this year, and he wanted to play in tournaments. So we got him in some U.S. kids golf tournaments. Shout out to Josh Woodward at the Philly junior, the local Philly junior tour. He's been awesome in setting all this up. But like, there's kids in his age group that started like 4 years ago, and they're 10. I'm like, it's just, they're starting so young, and that was not my story. I played when I was a kid. And then that summer before, my parents would drop me off at the golf course once I realized I wanted to do this, and play. I didn't know competitively was my thing, but they would drop me off in the morning at 8 and come back and pick me up at 6 or 7, and I'd stay there all day. So my first tournament, I had already played a lot of golf leading up to that before competitive golf was even, a discussion. So, but yeah, through high school, I played some, obviously I played high school golf for Calvert Hall here in Towson, Maryland. And I played some AJGA stuff. I won an AJGT tournament, which I don't even know if that tour is still around, but it was a national junior tour that was at Kingsmill. So I won that. So that was something that really helped my playing resume going into college. So I ended up playing for Stetson University and started in 2004 and played there up until my senior year. When I left, we had some family stuff come up. So I left the first semester of my senior year. But yeah, I played there for just over 3 years and it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of work too. And that's what I want to make sure that I always tell my junior student is, if you want to play college golf, that's great, but don't forget the reason why you're there. And that's to get an education. So, and sports are great with facilitating that and giving kids an opportunity to get an education for less money, which is fantastic. But yeah, I transitioned, with winning that one event, which was super helpful. And, I was lucky enough to get picked to start on the Stetson team. So that was a good time.
Tell us just a little bit about the experience at Stetson, because, a lot of people look at golf, they understand it's an individual sport, but it's different when you're playing collegiately because now you're part of a team. So it's a whole different atmosphere. I mean, of course, you're out there hitting your own golf balls and things, but at the same time, you have other people now that are dependent on you and vice versa to pull your weight. So it's not just all up to you. So how did that experience mold you as both a player, and what did you learn from the coach or coaches that were involved on that team that gave you some forward momentum as you decided, okay, I want to get into the teaching side of things a little bit more? We're going to talk about that in a second, but Was there some things, some nuggets, if you will, that you learned from that coaching experience that you had as a player that helped propel you into your own teaching career a little bit later on? But how was the overall experience playing on a college team as opposed to playing as just an individual?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a great learning experience. It to your point, is very, very different. As a junior, you're playing just yourself. The high school team, yeah, you have a team, but here we play 12 hole matches, and there you're playing, either 54 or 72 hole tournaments. So, and you're traveling for it, and you got a lot of homework to catch up on besides that. So, our coach at the time, the coach is different now. Our coach at the time was a little more hands off. He kind of organized things, and he was great. I just, we didn't get a coaching experience like a lot of people get. I think he did things more, a little more differently than some of the modern coaches do. But our system essentially worked if you played well enough in that event, if you made the traveling squad, which is 5 guys, and I forget what the scoring, I think he wanted a 72.5 or 73, something like that scoring average or better, and you'd automatically play in the next one. If not, everybody went through a qualifying process. So I think that was the biggest thing that I picked up on, was just trying to learn as I was going through some swing changes myself to try and get my game, because I knew I wanted to try and play. I wasn't really thinking teaching yet. I was thinking more playing. And some injuries and things like that sidelined me a little bit. But I think learning how to, despite working on my game and trying to improve my game every day, which we should be always trying to improve something, even if it's just course management. But putting aside the drills and the swing changes that I'm working on and going out and still trying to score. Because there were a couple of days where I didn't do that and put up around in the 80s and I didn't play. But I think, if I remember correctly, I think I qualified for all but one of the travel squad events. And that was when I initially had hurt. Actually, I'd hurt my wrist, coincidentally enough. That one got better. Then I redid it. But it was a learning experience, more so on just learning how to manage my scoring and understanding that what you're doing on the range and what you're doing on the golf course can be 2 separate entities at times. You still if when you're working with a tour player, if you're making a swing change, they still have to make a livelihood. You still have to figure out how to get the golf ball in the hole, even while making a change. Look at Max Homa, perfect example right now. He's making a change, and bouncing back and forth between a couple instructors, and Mark Blackburn and John here at Congressional, between those two guys. And I think he's back working with Mark again. But either way, like, he still had a rough year this year, but he managed to keep his card, and he's starting to play some better golf now. But like, you still got to get the ball in the hole from a competitive standpoint. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that I picked up on during my college and early professional days, was just managing scoring.
And you're at some point, obviously, you morphed into the professional side of things. Were you looking at playing professional golf as far as, maybe initially mini tours, and then into potentially, the bigger tours like the PGA? Was that something that was in your, forward vision, if you will? Or did you always kind of know in the back of your mind that I'd like to teach the game as well, but I'm going to see where I can go with my playing first, and then we'll see, where that goes. So how did that sort of transition? How did that happen? Where did it move after you finished the college golf? What was your next step? And then we'll start talking a little bit about how you, again, transitioned into a teach professional.
Yeah, no, I left college and I turned pro like the week after I left college, and I played in my first professional event at the Riviera Open down in Florida. It was a mini tour event, still going on. I think it's the longest standing mini tour event in the country that's run. It's a fun event. It's a 2-day. I think it's a 2-day tournament. But yeah, it's a fun tournament. It's actually at the golf course so my first golf experience was at Eagles Landing. When we went to go stay in Florida with my family, Riviera Country Club was where we always went to. My dad and I went to go play. So it's kind of cool that was the first professional experience. But yeah, I turned pro right after leaving college. I played the mini tours for a couple of years before moving back home up to Maryland to be with family for a bit. And actually got out of the business for a couple of years because I didn't know if working in the business was something that I wanted to do. And then just the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, you know what, I really want to be involved in the game in some way. And, I had a good relationship with my then swing coach, and, so we talked, and I started teaching, and just, I really enjoy helping people and helping them achieve their goals. And, now that, with all the injuries I've had and some health issues on my end, and quite frankly, I have a family, and the traveling lifestyle exclusively to play is very, very difficult. So like being able to help people achieve the goal that I didn't get to see through is where I would like to see my career go towards as I try and build on my career, and helping people locally, but like still having those players that have those high aspirations is something I really enjoy.
I think it's good because, you get sort of the best of both worlds. You took a shot at, leading up to the professional level, and obviously injuries and other things, sort of put you a little bit back on your heels at some point, but you were able to transition. And there's a lot of people, on tour and in golf profession that have gone that route where, for a good example is my friend and co-host on the Women of Golf show, Cindy Miller. She was an LPGA professional. She was on the Big Break. I think it was the second one, and really got some notoriety there. Played for the University of Miami on their golf team, and has just recently been inducted into the Hall of Fame, both for the University of Miami, but also in the LPGA as well. And but she played on tour for a number of years, but was never like a top player. And then got into the women's senior circuit, but she gravitated to the teaching side, and now teaches and occasionally plays in some events here and there, but ended up becoming a phenomenal teacher. She was never a top player, and I'm not suggesting that's the case here, but had a similar path in the sense that you both have dabbled into the professional level for one reason or another. Yours may be more injury related. Hers was just never had the ability to be able to go beyond where she had, but is excelling as one of the top teachers in her division. So, I mean, I just think that that experience that you're bringing to your students to be able to retrieve and say, this is what I did, this is my journey, and I'm going to help you get to your journey, whatever that may be. So I think there's some valuable nuggets that you can share, is I guess the words that I'm looking for. But so you've worked with some mini tour players as well as playing on tour and so forth. So talk about that as being an instructor for that. You mentioned a little bit, trying to give that balance between the range and then obviously becoming a better player. What are some of the struggles that these guys have out there that you help sort of piece together for them?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it at that level, so much of it is mental and between the ears, and it's to be able to put the scores up that these guys are shooting. I mean, look at Michael Brennan, he just won last week, and I think his scoring average coming into that tournament with his last 22 rounds or something like that was like 65 or 66. I mean, that is in all competitive rounds. I mean, that's golfing your ball. So, and these guys, there's a dime a dozen out there of guys that can put up numbers like that and can hit, driver ball speeds of 190 plus. But being able to score and being able to manage your time and your practice efficiently is important. But also trying to not get into the fads of what you're hearing. And, when you're out there, a lot of guys will say, oh, look at your swing. I see this guy and this guy did this and that. And the guys talk and like to talk golf swing, which is fun, but it's dangerous at that level because you can be like, oh, well, he did that, and now look, he's playing really well. So like having a dedicated plan and having someone to kind of walk through that with you is important. But I think just making sure that they're optimizing what they already do. Most of those guys don't need big changes. They got to that point already. They need to optimize what they're doing. They need to make sure that they're practicing efficiently and that they're scoring as best as they can and that they can do it under pressure. And being able to, having a competitive background, even though I didn't make it all the way to the show, it definitely helps, I think, because, I know what that feels like to be on the tee and have some, some butterflies and some things like that. And, I know what it's like to get on the first tee and be like, man, I really got to go to the bathroom. This is not fun. Like, you don't hear that stuff, but like, if you think of, yeah, so like, it's like, but you think back to what Tiger says, you look at these guys and they look like they have it all together and they're good, but it's like that duck sitting on the water, like on top, it looks like they're just slowly moving along, but underneath it's like, their feet are going like crazy. And to something that Tiger said a long time ago is that the second that he doesn't feel nervous on the first tee is the second he's going to stop. Yeah. And being nervous is good. Having anxiety is good as long as it doesn't overtake you. Right. So, but having, a coach, whether it's a swing coach or just someone there to guide you on the process is I think something that will help the player get through that because there's so many ways to get there. Little less ways now than there was, back when I was playing, it was Q school and there was 25 cards or 20 cards, whatever it was. Now Q school, thankfully they're back and giving 5 cards, which I think is great. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to make it out there. There's a lot of guys trying to do it. But it is doable, but I think going there and the first thing, if a player gets, goes to a swing coach and the first thing they say is, I want to change X, Y, Z. You might want to be hesitant just because you got there for a reason. Yeah, you might have things that need to be improved on, but overhauling a swing is probably not on high up on the list, so just optimizing and fine tuning a race car to a point is what we're trying to do with those players. Whereas you get your average golfer that we have at the club, that's a different story. Like if you're hitting a banana ball that comes back at you at the end of it, we need to fix that. So, and that usually requires a bigger change, but those guys aren't doing that. They got to learn how to work the ball. They got to learn how to manage their game under pressure.
Yeah. And you touched on a point as I was listening to you, and this was something that we talked about earlier in the Coach's Corner segment of the show, which I strongly urge people to listen a little bit later on. But, you talked about, making those changes in that, and obviously, picking your coach. You've got to be careful of that. There's been a lot of players. Nick Faldo was a good example. Again, changing, was a great player, changing, reinventing the swing. Now, Tiger was able to get away with it a little bit more But he's a phenomenal individual, and he's just a diamond in the rough initially, but he just shone over the years. But he's made multiple changes and reinvented the wheel many times. But that's a rare occasion to be able to do that and be able to compete at a high level. And you're right, with the onslaught of social media and YouTube and things like that, if you start, or even other players, talking out on the range, and I'm talking about at the professional level, if they're standing out there and you're working with, Coach A and he's working with Coach B, and you're trying to make some changes because he's doing really well, his coach might be a great coach for him, but he may not be a great coach for you, and vice versa. So you have to be really careful, especially like you said, when you're now getting into paychecks. At an amateur level, as you pointed out, it's a little bit different. You can be a little bit more flexible, but when you start getting into a higher level, you've really got to pay attention to what you're doing. And that's not to knock anyone, but it's just the reality is, if you want to be a more accomplished player, and you're already at a high level. I mean, if you're already playing out on tour, you did something right to get there, because that's not something that everybody. That's a very small percentage of people that get there. So you don't want to start monkeying with the, with the wheel, so to speak, and start really making drastic changes, because then you could end up putting yourself back a long way, and that's not good. What are some pet peeves? There's some myths out there in the golf, and this is something I want to ask you, get your thoughts on, because you probably hear a lot more now than I do. But what are some of the myths, and let's talk about some of the pet peeves that just kind of, that you hear out in the golf vernacular. You see it on the social media platforms, the golf group. Actually, real quick note, that's one of the reasons why I started doing this show, because I started reading some of the stuff on the Facebook golf groups, and I just said, I want to bring these conversations out on a platform like this, and that's what I'm doing for 13 years. So, but you've probably seen some of the same conversations. You've probably witnessed it over the years as well. What are some of the myths, and what are some of the pet peeves that you've accumulated over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think a common myth is just that one size fits all. Like, there's not one swing that fits every single player. It's in my opinion, it doesn't work that way. Everybody is built differently. Everybody has different strengths. Everybody has different ranges of motion. And that's why I think TPI has been a huge proponent. And there's been some stuff online in the last 24 hours, really, where for any teachers that are watching, they've probably seen some of the stuff where there was a guy that made a post that said TPI is not helping you, it's hurting you. And he went off on all these reasons why. And most of them are, quite frankly, crap. Right. Because TPI is about helping the player do what they can do better, right? And I think we talked about this earlier, but a cardinal sin in golf instruction, whether you're teaching a beginner or Tiger Woods, maybe not Tiger Woods right this second, but number one golfer in the world, let's say Scotty Scheffler, you can't have them do something that they can physically not do. If they can't physically do it, you can't make them do it in the golf swing. It's just not going to happen. Or you're going to break them and they're going to get injured. That's just
it's irresponsible to do that.
It is absolutely. So so I think that's just something that when I'm teaching and when I'm talking to students, and to touch on what you had talked about a minute ago, though, I think when people are looking for a new instructor, whether it's me, whether it's Clint, whether it's Chris Como, it doesn't matter. Treat that conversation, the initial conversation with the instructor when you're looking, as like a job interview. You're trying to find someone that has a good philosophy that you agree with, but also someone that you get along with. There's a personality piece to it, So that's important to understand. But I think the biggest pet peeve that I have is the keep your head down, or you hear it on the range and the guy down, his buddy was like, oh, you topped it because you didn't keep your head down. No, the head is not the problem. Your spine is the problem, because the spine went like that, right? It looks like the head's coming up, but the head. So what do people do? Like, oh, I kept my head down. All right, well, I'm going to swing and keep my head down. They still top it, and I don't know why. Well, it's because you're not turning now, because you keep looking that way. Put strain on the neck, I put strain on your back, and I've seen people get hurt because they're trying to keep their head down. Look at Annika Sorenstam, David Duval, Joe Durant, Dustin Johnson a little bit. There's plenty of other guys that will pivot their head and start looking before the ball is even off the club face. So, and I think Annika, if I remember correctly, went on record saying that started as a drill. She was keeping the head down too long. It was hurting her rotation or pivot. So she started letting the head release as a drill. She hit it better, so she stuck with it.
Yep.
And that happens a lot. I mean, Ben Kruper, the YouTube sensation, the pause king or whatever they call him, but that pause started as a drill. So, for a lot of times, if you do a drill and it works, don't be afraid to take it on the golf course, even if it's just to try it out and work on transition. But yeah, I mean, I think my biggest pet peeve 100% is the keep your head down thing. And because that is not, the head is the least of your problems if that's what's happening.
Well, I think where some of that derived from too, and I think it was a misunderstanding is, I remember Nicholas talked about his golf coach, Jack Grout, talked about how Nicholas talked about how Jack would grab his hair because he was, moving his head too much. But really what he was saying was he wanted him to keep it steady at a certain point throughout the swing. And then obviously your head turns as you rotate through, and Jack's did as well. But he might have kept it a little bit more stationary than maybe other players did, but it worked for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was really what he was trying to convey. And I think I agree with you. I think that keep your head down, I think, is people misunderstood what really coaches were talking about. It wasn't just to like keep it, and not move. It was just to keep it, steady in position until it's such a point that it rotates naturally as your body is rotating. So I agree wholeheartedly. I want to slip in there because I didn't mention them earlier, and there was a reason I didn't mention them because I knew we would have a chance to talk about it. But one of the things that you touched on in the Coach's Corner segment earlier on tonight was that you really like to keep up with a lot of current trends. You like to also go to a lot of seminars and things. And I'm going to just read out a few things that you are certified or have experienced some of these different programs, and then I'm going to get you to talk about a few of them here. So obviously you're a certified PGA teacher and coaching professional. You're also TPI level 1, golf bioswing dynamics level 2, TrackMan level 2, swing catalyst KVest level 2, golf biomechanist by Dr. Kwan that you talked about earlier as well. So you've got a lot of certifications there. People that are listening that are maybe not in the golf business may not understand what all that means. Okay, he's got a lot of certifications. What is he, a doctor? What is he? No, there's a reason why you did this. They each really cover a different area in the golf swing and that sort of thing, and in golf in general. So why the certifications or why the programs? What was it to you? Was it just more of a learning to bring more to the table for your students and have a better understanding for both yourself, obviously, and your students? Or was it just an interest or a fascination just on your own? So, and I'm not being facetious when I say that. Yeah. I'm just saying, what was the reason? Because I know a lot of others do that as well. Not everybody, but a lot of others take those pursuits as well. So what was the reason for looking into a lot of these different certification programs?
Yeah, well, so I look at learning in general and being, specializing in instruction as a PGA professional, instead of being a head golf professional or director of golf or whatever it may be. I look at it as if I'm not constantly learning, I'm getting worse. So I want to constantly be learning. I want to constantly be reading books. I want to, watch videos and learn, what other people are doing so I can maybe make my instruction help my students better and faster. Some of it, yeah, is because I like learning about the golf swing. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's another small piece of it is we have to have a certain amount of continuing education in order to maintain PGA accreditation and keep our membership active. So that's a piece of it as well. But the sure. 95% of the reason why I do it is because I want to be able to offer more to my students. They're paying me a dollar amount to help them get better. And, especially when my goal as an instructor, is to get them better as quickly as I can, but I also want to work with the better players as well. I enjoy doing that. And I enjoy working with the amateur and the beginner as well. But because I had that tour experience, that's definitely an area I'd like to see my career go. But I think having all those backgrounds, so like the Dr. Kwan class, that was very, very science backed. We talked about center of pressure, center of mass, moment arms, people, and how a moment arm and how you're pushing against the ground can increase or decrease speed, things like that. And then, there's the two that I think were the most impactful for me were Bioswing Dynamics, which is run by Mike Adams and E.A. Tischler. It's a series of assessments and different patterns that you'll see, and you want to make sure that the patterns match. So, we do an assessment with a student and have them do a couple of different tests and see, hey, are you a side-on golfer? Are you an under golfer? Are you an on-top golfer? Now, there are preferences that I like to see for people, but if someone, does a certain test and goes this way, right, versus someone that goes this way, there might be a reason why that happens. There might be something in their shoulder and why they can't go this way. You just want to make sure that certain patterns in the golf swing match the assessment that you saw before the lesson. And then the other one is TPI. Absolutely, I love the TPI stuff, and that one's more, is developed in a way to find, like they call it a body swing connection, right? So I want to make sure that I take what my body can do. Yes, we can improve it, but we're going to improve that in the gym. And then if there's pain, we're going to go ahead and refer that person to a doctor and, hey, make sure there's not a structural problem.
Right.
And then if there's not a structural problem and there's not a fitness problem, it's just a learning problem. Well, then, maybe we need to start with, okay, let's have a concept conversation and make sure that your understanding of what should happen is what you're actually doing. Or maybe your concept of your understanding of what should happen is wrong.
Right.
And, we need to fix that. And sometimes that's all you have to say to somebody is, hey, no, do it this way. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And then they do it. It's like, oh, that's different. So, but I, like I mentioned in the earlier segment, I look at all these certifications and every education event I go to, I'm always trying to pick something up, whether it's someone I agree with or someone I don't agree with. You still can learn from them.
You sure?
And I'm trying to take those things that I learn and put them into a toolbox. And when I have a student in front of me, I can pull that out. So like you're working on your house, you wouldn't grab a screwdriver to put a nail in the wall. You would grab a hammer. So, I look at all of these different certifications and all of these different training platforms and assessment tools that I have as a way to have a tool in my toolbox to pull out for somebody that has XYZ problem. So, and they're fun.
Well, and I want to touch on that just a little bit. And let me just clarify something for those tuning into the broadcast that maybe aren't familiar with what TPI stands for. It's Titleist Performance Institute. So I just want to throw that out there. Yeah, that's what the plaque is above there. Some people aren't familiar. I mean, obviously people in the golf business are, but for those that are listening, maybe don't know what's TPI. That's what it stands for, is Titleist Performance Institute. So yeah,
and they have a good. They just started putting out a lot of YouTube videos in the last year or two. If you just look up, I think it's My TPI is the page, but it's great. It's a lot of really good information. Just if you're the average golfer, just be careful because sometimes it can, death by 1,000 cuts. So don't, just because you watch it doesn't mean you have to go try it. But
that's a whole another conversation with that, with all the videos that are out there and so forth. But you're exactly right. You've got to be very careful about that. But you raise again another really good point about this, about these different programs that you're taking, because again, as we talked about earlier tonight, everybody learns things a little bit differently. Some people may be very technical driven. So, getting into the biomechanics discussion a little bit. And I want to clarify something, because again, this is for really two reasons. This is for the amateurs that are tuning into the show, and this is for fellow professionals. The one thing that you have to guard against as a professional is taking these certifications and then trying to teach your student the certification process. And meaning by that is getting into all the ins and outs. The idea is for you to learn from this and then sort of water it down a little bit and pull the important nuggets out of these different programs and these different philosophies, however you want to terminize it, to the students, because we have to be careful that we don't overwhelm the student. It's not there you're not taking the course to then reciprocate the course to the student. It's there to use that valuable information that you've learned to be able to apply it to that student's circumstance. Again, biomechanics is a good one. Again, somebody that's a little bit more technical driven, maybe wants to understand how the body's working and how it works in conjunction. But maybe for somebody else, they just need to see you perform a certain task and they can emulate that. So again, you have to be very careful with that. And I think they're very good programs, but I think you would even agree that some of the instructors out there get too far down the weeds and talking too technical about these programs with their students, to the point where it's actually causes more confusion. So again, I'm not saying that as a knock to any of them. I'm just saying that as a golf professional, I think we have to be careful that we don't get too technical with students when it's not appropriate. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like what we talked about earlier, everybody learns differently, not just visual versus kinesthetic versus,
Right.
all this stuff like feeling, seeing, doing, right? So it's not just that. It's some people like numbers, so might use
Sure.
TrackMan and say, okay, that was 3 left. I want 3 right. And once I show them what that looks like, they can say, oh, 3 left. Got it. Okay, 3 right. Some people, you say 3 left, they're like, huh? Right. So,
exactly.
So being able to tailor your teaching to the student, and I've always thought that was the mark of a good teacher, was being able to say the same thing 20 different ways. So, because if it doesn't mesh with this guy, it might mesh with the next one. Right. So, but then some people who maybe they're a doctor, maybe they just, like us, they just nerd out and love learning about the golf swing and the technical aspects to it. And you say, okay, well, you didn't have a whole lot of radial deviation there, where, some people that don't know that would say, hinging, unhinging, right? It means the same thing, radial owner.
Right.
But some people might not know what that means. If you say, oh, you didn't radial deviate enough. Oh, what? Oh, you didn't hinge your wrist enough.
Right. Exactly.
Your wrist up, right? Because, it's the golf swing is so, it can be extremely, extremely complicated if you dive into every little piece of how each different body part should move in an ideal world. But being able to then kind of water things down a little bit and say, okay, here's where you were, here's where the drill puts you, and then let's go ahead and try and apply what we did to the drill. I saw a video today of Rory talking where he's like, I think someone asked him how they could get better faster. He said, go to the range and do a drill that works for you 100 times, and then try and hit like 10 balls, and then do the drill 100, and then go out and try and reproduce that drill on the golf course. Right. And that philosophy is probably going to be more effective than just going out and banging ball after ball. Practice doesn't make you better. Practice makes permanent, not perfect.
Right. Exactly. And that's really what I was trying to get at is, and you stated it very well, is I think there's, many different ways of explaining the same thing. And again, I equate it to, if you have a kindergartner there, you're not going to teach them a college course. And if it's a college student there, you're not going to teach them like a kindergartner. So again, you have to learn how to speak their language. And if they're very technical driven, then you can be a little bit more and if you want to, have that conversation in more detail after your lesson, because that person likes to know as much as you do type of thing, that's okay. That's appropriate. And that's really what I was saying. And you laid it out very well with your example. Now, something that was interesting, I want to get you to touch on a little bit, and that was that you were a 3-time celebrity stage presenter for the North Coast Golf Show. So, that exactly. So, tell us what was going on there, and just give us the inside scoop.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was just knowing the people that run the place, and I like to present. I like to, I was in the Philadelphia section. I was a member of the instruction and education committees, so we put together some education events for PGA members in the area, and so like teaching, teaching the teacher type stuff is always something that I enjoy. So I forget who was running it. I know Bob Kramer was running at the time. He's since passed. And then I think Lou Guzzi was running it since then. But they had asked me to put together some stuff to present. And I don't remember what I talked about at the time. But it was something that, because we have, it's a golf expo that runs in the Northeast, maybe even the Eastern Seaboard here, but the North Coast Golf Show.
Sure.
I think it kind of hovers this like Northeast area of the United States. But yeah, we put together, a couple presentations and kind of just did like my favorite drills for certain, common faults that we see. And, as people were walking around, they would swing by and watch it. But they had some cool presenters. Like they always have a long drive guy there, and it's fun to see as long as you have, earmuffs because it's loud.
Right.
But yeah, that was a pretty fun experience being able to present. at the expo. That was a good time. And then we always the Philadelphia section always has free lessons throughout that expo that we offer. So there's a bunch of pros from the section offer their time and come out and give free lessons to people that come out to the expo.
Always good to give back,
absolutely,
from the game, and I think that speaks volumes about this industry as well. I think there's no other industry like the golf industry. Is there's so many great professionals that are connected at all different levels, both not just players, but the teaching side of it as well, and obviously administrative. So there's just a lot of good people in this industry. So I wanted to, as we get close to wrapping up here, I wanted to just to give you a moment, because I know, we've talked about, golf here quite a bit, and I know that you and I have communicated off air about some things that you're going to be working on in preparation for Golf Tips Magazine as one of the new top 25 instructors. I'm really excited about that. We'll unpack that a little bit later, but you had mentioned something in one of the conversations. I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but I want to get you to touch on that a little bit. Did I hear you correct in one of the communications that you said that you are an something to do with is it not ATM? What is it? What's the word I'm looking for? That you're involved with the healthcare side of things. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a licensed paramedic. Yeah,
that's what I was looking. I was trying to think of the word. I'm sorry, I lost. So I found that really interesting, because I know obviously golf is first and foremost, but when I saw that and you had mentioned that, I was thinking, well, I got to ask about that on the show. So tell us a little bit, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I had some personal stuff come up, and had to, and COVID happened, and the whole 6-foot social distancing thing, and that made things very difficult for golf instructors for a while. So I took some time, and I was still teaching part-time on a part-time basis and working with some of my clients, but I took some time and got my paramedic license. And I've worked as a paramedic now in Wilmington as well as Maryland, and Wilmington, Delaware, like Newcastle area. That was an experience. And I still volunteer in my time, and I still have a job. I work a couple days a week where I go out and work as a licensed paramedic in my hometown where I live. So just to kind of what we were talking about before, like I like helping people, and I like helping people with their golf games, but just the overall, giving back to the community and helping people with something that they need help with. Right. So, people don't call paramedics and police and all that stuff on a good day. They call them on their worst day. So I was like, you know what, let's look into this. I've always liked learning about the body, and it's given me an even greater understanding and appreciation of how the body moves and how everything's connected, and things like that. So, but yeah, I during COVID, I got my paramedic license, and still do that from time to time. But yeah,
no, I think that's great. I mean, and I apologize. I was trying to think of the word, and it just escaped me for a moment. But
I wish I was an ATM. That'd be nice.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know why I said that, but anyway,
that's all right.
But so. What's interesting, though, is because that line of work, as you said, kind of really goes into your golf a little bit. Having a better understanding of how the body works can then sort of, be incorporated into your teaching understanding as well, because now you can, again, having that extra experience, you can bring that, believe it or not, into your golf instruction and saying, okay, the body works this way, and this is some of the challenges that you may have. So there's a lot of crossover there I could see, where it would give you a little bit of an advantage as an instructor. So yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, it's helped a lot with the competitive golfer too, because you get on the tee and you get nervous. I mean, that's your body's fight or flight. It's a sympathetic, response that everybody has. Like pupils dilate, everything. You start to sweat. You start, heart rate goes up, breathing goes up. But like having an understanding of that, like kind of learn some cheats on how to reverse that, and then I haven't learned to do it for myself, but you can just ask my wife that one. But but like just learning how to all right, this is a response to something that my mind sees as a threat, or something that's got my heart rate up. Well, let's take some breaths, let's calm down. Let's, do some different things to just, kind of simplify things. But yeah, it's definitely helped gain a better understanding and appreciation of the human body. It's quite a thing.
Well, it's interesting. I think it's great. And I like the fact that you're doing things not only on the golf course to give back to your community, but also to the others as a paramedic. So being able to give back when people need you the most. So I think that's just a fantastic attitude to have. And I think it's something that we should all aspire to, is to do what we can to help one another. Well, Michael, listen, we got to wrap it up, and I really enjoyed having you on and getting a chance to expose you in a little bit more detail. I know there's a million things that we could talk about, and we'll unpack that in future shows, but I really appreciate you coming on twice tonight on the Coach's Corner panel, joining our good friend Clint Wright. And I want to give you another quick opportunity here just to let the folks know if they want to reach out as I get ready to wrap up the show, how they can best reach out if they want to communicate with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show, Ted. It's always a good time. So, easiest way to get a hold of me is just my website has my cell phone number and my email address, Michael Wheeler Golf. You can also just Google that; it should take you right there. I also have a YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, and all those handles I believe are Michael Wheeler Golf as well. So if you look those up, you should be able to find me. But if people are interested in reaching out, please feel free. My cell phone number is on there. You can usually text is the easiest way. So if I'm teaching, I can get back to you faster than calling. But welcome to email as well.
Sounds good. Well, on that note, again, a special thanks to all of my guests tonight. Again, earlier, Clint Wright for being on the Coach's Corner with Michael. Thanks for doing a great job as always and bringing your best. And also want a special thanks to our travel guests, Robert Kaufman, my friend and co-host of the travel segment, and also David Benham, the Director of Club Operations at the Boulders Resort out in western parts of the United States. Thanks, David, for sharing a little bit about it. And you can go to thebouldersresort.com as their website if you want to learn more about it. Maybe plan a trip out to the Scottsdale area. That's the general area of the resort, so you can check that out as well. But and then obviously my special guest doing double duty tonight, both on the Coach's Corner panel and also on the show as my special featured guest of the evening. But he'll be back again, if not before the end of this season. He'll definitely be back next season on Coach's Corner, and we may have some other projects we may work on in between, and we'll keep you posted on that. But on that note, I want to thank everybody again for tuning into the broadcast. Don't forget to go to the iGolf Sports YouTube channel, subscribe there, and you can check up not only tonight's broadcast, but all of the previously aired shows as well. And if you just enjoy kicking back and listen to the audio version, you can go to Spreaker.com or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can check them out there. But on that note, thanks everybody for tuning into Golf Talk Live, and I will see you next week. God bless.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.